Hello. Thanks for joining in, tuning in to this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these messages before or heard them, welcome. And welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness in the highest levels of love light. To those of you who have watched these and sent me notes, I am in the process of catching up. So apologies on that. And I actually have a couple of sessions I'm behind on still. So just a heads up on that. Thank you for your patience. I want to go into a little light language. I've just recently been sharing some energy updates, and yeah, we'll see what comes through. This is meant to be felt, not necessarily understood on a linear basis. And as we exchange information, as we exchange energy, so to speak, as we share and exchange communication, we find ourselves changing the potentiality in which we course our direction, in which course our direction is taking, in which directional course we choose to guide ourselves into, to allow ourselves to be guided into. For that which it is that we are tuning into assists in us charting our course, whether we recognize it or not. And I'm hearing charging our course. As we tune in, and plug into this higher resource of connectivity to source, which has been being seen that it's been kind of cut off from a lot of people, or a lot of people have perceived that they've been cut off when this was not necessarily the case. And that's maybe perhaps another video. As we allow ourselves to tune into that which assists us in broadening our bandwidth, expanding our awareness, yet also raising our frequency and vibration, this allows us to be more centered in our course and direction. Allowing ourselves to have more space for expansion, expansivity. I'm seeing activity, expansion, and intuitivity and creativity all kind of combined into one. As we allow ourselves to tune into these frequencies and assist ourselves, our brothers and sisters, ourselves, all in a new wavelength, so to speak, it allows us to activate and harmonize with the new frequencies that are available to us now. In every given moment, we are gifted with an opportunity. This is a backup play on words on the tuning into, opportunity, to change our course and our direction, change our directional course, to recognize what courses through us. Basically, I'm hearing this reference to allowing ourselves to feel the blood coursing through our veins, to feel what is making us feel good. Not like forcing us to feel good, but that's also a play on words. May the force be with you. The force is with all of us. May we feel it coursing through our veins and recognize that what we are working towards is not in vain. If we are continually working towards something for the proper reasons, for the higher for the main course is what I'm hearing. So not being distracted by all of these particular, I'm being shown the way that we pick up our fork, the way that we hold it, the type of utensils that we use, how long we wait in between the first course and the second course. Do we eat dessert first, or do we eat? Basically, I'm seeing that a lot of people have been really caught up in this whole process. And when we recognize that it isn't about all of those steps, from one end of the spectrum, we can get too caught up in all the steps, when sometimes it is to focus on the main course, to enjoy those other steps along the way and not necessarily allow them to slow us down from our potential, is what I'm hearing. We are being invited to recognize that many teachers hold within them the patterns, codes, and recognition signature frequency dilations, so to speak, that dial into old timelines, that dial into access points and nodes that, while once valuable and highly attainable, to play on words, they are no longer constitutional. They are no longer constituting what it is that we are constituents of. I think I'm using a lot of political words here. So a lot of this is meant to be played with. We are recognizing that, and when I say constituents, I'm also saying stitching together. Like what's held together as our belief system before isn't who we really are anymore. It's not necessarily who we need to be plugging into. This is said with love. This is said with appreciation. This is said with grace and gratitude. For these beings, these light workers, these teachers have fulfilled their purpose from one perspective. So there is no judgment here or idea that they are misdirected. All right, I'm seeing kind of where this is going. No judgment. We're going to feel it. It's going to come up from time to time. We're human beings. But part of this is about recognizing that we're all on different paths, even though we all are eventually getting to the main course, if that makes sense. Some people want to have dessert first. Some people want to use a fork when they eat their salad, and some people just want to eat it with their fingers. And who are we to sit and look at someone and say, you can't have your dessert first, or you can't have your cake and eat it too, or you're not allowed to eat the salad with your fingers, you have to have it with a fork. This is all old energy, and we are being invited to recognize that even though we're working as a collective, and this is a collective experience, this is our own individual unique expression of creative source, of the force that moves through all of us. If the force were supposed to move through all of us in the exact same way, we would all be sheep, so to speak. And while some of us may think that there are many out there who are sheep, we are constantly being invited to recognize where that misconception comes from. Because when we are judging others for being a sheep, and we are placing ourselves up on a pedestal of what I'm hearing is haughtiness, like I'm haughty, like I'm better than, or Haughty, it is an egoic perception of right and wrong, and it is a linear perception. So again, the more we can step out of this need to coerce somebody else to follow in the only direction that we believe in, or the only direction that has worked for us, unless this person is asking us what's worked for you, that's a different story. And so I'm being guided to even play with that's a different story. Everybody's story is different. My past and what has worked for me and what I share with others when I teach others who are asking for guidance or messages or connection through the Akash or whatever it might be that I'm working with someone with and on, it's different for everyone. There is not always a blank, this is the way it is, always. I'm hearing the way of it is the way of it. Like, yes, for some factions, that is the only way, and that is what they believe in. And that is fine for them. And if that works for them, that's great. But what I'm being guided to kind of look at is it doesn't work that way for everybody else. So it's okay. And this is very multi-layered. I'm talking about many different things. Not only am I talking about gurus and teachers, storylines about the galactic, storylines about archangels, storylines about our body and how it works, storylines about political system and who's right and who's wrong and who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. All of this is different for everyone because some people see things from a completely different perspective than others. And we're really being guided and invited to step up as light workers into our own sovereignty and recognize that this doesn't mean pushing our belief onto somebody else or belief, even if that means that we don't agree with the political system. That isn't our job from what I'm seeing in my own perspective. And again, that doesn't mean that's right for somebody else. Somebody else might say, well, Carrie, I believe strongly in the political system because we're creating a human experience and we're creating this proper and right way to live in this higher dimensional existence. And until the higher dimensional existence is here, right in front of me, then we have to work together to change the old political system. That's a beautiful statement for that particular person, and that may be their path. That isn't necessarily my path, and I honor that person for walking their path in compassion, non-judgment, neutrality, and that's what they're choosing in form to reform, to reshape, to uphold, to create from. That is their perspective that they are creating from, and in that reality bubble is where they are making their playing field. They may not be playing in the same field as angels or the galactics. They may not see that particular layer of the bubble. And on the flip side, someone else who's really tuned in to, let's say, the galactics, are seeing things from such a different perspective that is so nonlinear and multidimensional. Sometimes it can be challenging for someone that only wants to play in that field to not come from a place of judgment about others who aren't there or don't want to play in that field or don't even understand that that field exists. So what I'm trying to share is there's even bubbles within bubbles within bubbles. So my understanding may not go to the same field or bubble as someone else's understanding. That doesn't make my teachings wrong as long as I'm not pushing my will onto somebody else's. And neither does that make them wrong if they are doing no harm to somebody else and I can choose not to tune into them. But this does follow with discernment. So when I say wrong, yes, somebody can be saying, well, this is how this works, based on their own understanding of how it works, and it may not be correct. So in that sense, yes, what they could be teaching is wrong. So I just want to say that from that space. That doesn't necessarily mean, though, that there isn't something to it. There might be something else to their teachings that can be very valuable. Does that make sense? I know I'm kind of, I'm trying to be very neutral here because I've heard many teachers who have so many valuable teaching points, yet, and myself included, it may not be that everything I share is everybody's cup of tea. But those that will benefit from it will benefit from it. And those that want more information on something I'm not providing will find it someplace else. But especially we're being guided to find it within. And that's kind of this message also, is to not necessarily be constantly looking for an outside resource to tell us what's going on in the galactic field, what's going on in the political system. Because what I'm being shown is that it's mixed up everywhere. Right now it's a real mixed bag. None of it is sticking, if that makes sense. And somebody might say, well, that's not true, Carrie. This is what's going to happen. This is what's unfolding, and this is the future that I see. And that may be true for that particular person viewing from that particular remote area. So if I'm remote viewing, for example, I'm doing it based on my own perception, my own perspective, and how broad or how expansive my tunnel vision gets me. So if I'm only able to see into 3 layers, that might mean that I'm only seeing 3 layers in front of me. I may not be seeing that there's 3 layers outside of me and around me that go out in diagonals. I might be completely missing those. But I can pull from it bits and pieces that I'm allowing myself to see, if that makes sense. So no thing that one particular person is teaching is the only proper, right, and true way of it. Because we are each on our own unique individual expression. And source, from creative source, is constantly recreating, expanding, growing, and flowing. Therefore, once we start to wrap our brains around a particular theory, system, or belief structure, those are shifting very quickly into something new. So that information can be used to further explore, understand, and expand. That doesn't mean it's solid. That doesn't mean that that's it. And it used to be that way, though. It used to be the way of it. It used to be that all the information we were getting, these are the echelons, this particular entity is in charge of this, these are the gods and goddesses. But from what I'm seeing is even that has changed because everything has grown. Everything's been rebirthed. Everything is different now. So even those old stories have shifted, even if it's slightly, and it would be limiting for us to project our own view, as limited as it is, as expansive as we might think it might be, on that particular person, their story, and their potentiality. So as we get this information that comes in, it can change just like that. And one of the biggest messages that's coming through is how much are we willing to change with it? Because it might really, we might be getting some information soon that blows our mind about things that we really staunchly were staunch about, believed in. We're like, this is it. And then all of a sudden information comes out and it goes, no, actually, it's not at all what we thought it was. So this is the story that keeps coming up again and again. How mobile yet anchored and grounded in our own flexibility can we be? So I'm being guided about a hurricane. Palm trees are very flexible, and sometimes they lose their coconuts. Sometimes their branches fly off, and that happens so that they can get rid of this dead energy. It can leave, they can plant the seeds, and they can be lighter and more flexible and move with the storm. If you're too solid and too stuck and rigid, so we're constantly being invited to ask ourselves, what belief am I really stuck in? Where am I most rigid? And maybe we can ask ourselves, is that the only truth? Is there something bigger and more expansive that maybe I'm missing about this particular story? And are there other parallels maybe that I'm not seeing? And we can do this about our relationships, jobs, political systems, social, spiritual, all of it. Because as we do that, we actually open ourselves up to more source codes. And I'm being guided to kind of end on this note. I've been seeing this creative void space that because of I talked about this in a previous video, our inflexibility and tunnel vision was deleted. We didn't look at it, we ignored it, we only looked in this direction, and it just kind of got lost. But it never really wasn't there. It was just overwritten. But that information is still held, and we're going in and we're finding this, these old beautiful bits, pieces of information, fragments, if you will, connected to deeper understandings about our solar system, deeper understandings about Earth, deeper understandings about our bodies, deeper understandings about the true history of who and what we are and what we're capable of. And as this comes back around, right? I'm hearing Carly Simon coming around again, but I'm also seeing You're So Vain. So it's like, I know it's so funny. I've been listening to The Bridge lately. The Bridge, right? All of this can be used as plays on words, but essentially it's like everything's coming around again, right? But we're also being invited to see past our own vanity. And we don't even realize sometimes when it is ego or vanity or the need to be validated or the need. Many people are struggling right now because they want to believe in something. And we really just need to believe in ourselves. And if we're getting information, somebody else is telling us that information is not real or false, that might be true for that other person. That may not be true for us, and we might be tapping into something else that they're not seeing. And they may never see it, or they might see it. It doesn't matter. We're being guided to go to the beat of our own drum. And last but not least, follow that guidance, because we each have our own activations. We each have our own inner awareness that we can't let anybody else snuff that out. Our spark, our flame. Yet not to say that by listening to somebody else doesn't inspire us. That's great. Take what resonates, move on, and get rid of the rest, right? But follow our hearts and see where that leads us, because there's so much in the works right now. And it's all about, I kind of went off on a tangent here, and I'll bring it all back around, but it's about following our heart. It's being in a space of gratitude and being assertive about our truth without projecting it and pushing it onto somebody else, or on the flip side, taking everything that somebody is saying and believing every single word of it, because that may be true in that moment. It could shift that quickly. And we have to be willing, from my perspective, to go with the flow a little bit and be that tree. Allow ourselves to kind of see where, but not lose our grounding, not lose our roots, not lose our coconuts, all of them, in this crazy shift that's going on, especially over the next couple of months. And I think I'm going to go back and listen to this again and kind of type up some of the things that I've written, because I went into several different flows here. But in love and light, guys and gals, namaste. Thank you so much for tuning in, and patience be with us, right? And gratitude. Namaste.